Hello everyone. First of all, let me introduce myself. My name is Anggie Isra Tristanty and I'm a student from Erlangen University. I'm also from Factual Reading Class E. I'm majoring in English Literature. And in this video, I want to review a book. It's called Wuthering by Emily Bronte. This. I actually bought this book like years ago, but I never had a chance to finish it. I'm stuck at chapter 4. Well, it's actually because this book is hard to understand. There's a lot of vocabulary that I never even heard of before. So when I read this book, I have to go back and forth from the Translate app to this book to translate the vocabulary. And this book is actually pretty thin. It's thinner than most novels that I own. But it took a lot of time to finish it. It took me months, while the other novel that I read usually only took a week.
Wuthering is a novel by Emily Bronte, and it's first published on 1847. This book has a total of 357 pages. When it first released, this book has triggered a lot of people. It even caused a big controversy because many people believe that this book is immoral, and the themes that was chosen was criticized a lot.
Well, I'm also gonna tell you a little bit about Emily Bronte. She's one of 5 daughters in her family, and 2 of her other sisters are also a writer. Actually, they write poems at first before they write novels. It's Charlotte and Anna, and the 2 other sisters they died because of tuberculosis. Emily Bronte lives in Yorkshire with her family.
Now, let's get to the story. First of all, Wuthering is the name of a farmhouse where the Earnshaw family lived, but the story begins 30 years before. The Earnshaw family lived at Wuthering Heights, and the family consisting of a mother, a father, Hindley, a boy of 14, and 6-year-old Catherine. In that year, Mr. Earnshaw travels to Liverpool, where he finds a homeless gypsy-like boy, about 7, whom he decides to adopt as his son, and his name is Heathcliff. Hindley, who finds himself excluded from his father's affections by this newcomer, quickly learns to hate him, but Catherine grows very attached to him. Soon, Heathcliff and Catherine are like twins, spending hours on the moors together and having every moment apart. Hindley eventually went to college, and he returns 3 years later when Mr. Earnshaw dies. He becomes the master of Wuthering Heights and forces Heathcliff to become a servant instead of a family member. Heathcliff and Katie continue to run wild. In November, a few months after Hindley returns, they make their way to Thrushcross Grange to spy on the inhabitants. As they watch the childish behavior of Edgar and Isabella Linton, the children of the Grange, they are spotted and try to escape. Catherine, having been cuffed by a dog, is brought inside and helped while Heathcliff is sent home. 2 years on, and Catherine has become close friends with Edgar, growing more distant from Heathcliff. One day in August, while Hindley is absent, Edgar comes to visit Catherine. She has an argument with Ellen, which then spreads to Edgar, who tries to leave. Catherine stops him, and before long they declare themselves as lovers. Later, Catherine talks with Ellen, explaining that Edgar had asked her to marry him, and she had accepted. She says that she does not really love Edgar, but she loved Heathcliff instead. But unfortunately, she could never marry the latter because his lack of status and education. Therefore, she plans to marry Edgar and use that position to help raise Heathcliff's standing. Unfortunately, Heathcliff had overheard The first part about not being able to marry him and flees from the farmhouse. He disappears without a trace, and after 3 years, Edgar and Catherine are married. This is the part where I laughed the most in the book. 6 months after Catherine and Edgar married, Heathcliff returns as a gentleman, growing stronger and richer during his absence. Catherine is so delighted to see him, although Edgar is not so keen. Isabella, who's Edgar's sister, now she's 18, she falls madly in love with Heathcliff. He despises her but encourages her infatuation, seeing it as a chance for revenge on Edgar. When he embraces Isabella one day at the garage, there is an argument with Edgar, which causes Catherine to lock herself in the room, and she falls ill. While Catherine is ill, Heathcliff elopes with Isabella, causing Edgar to disown his sister. 2 months after Heathcliff married with Isabella, he returns to the Wuthering Heights, and he heard that Catherine is ill and arranged with Ellen to visit her in secret. In the early hour of the day after their meeting, Catherine gives birth to her daughter, Katie, which is her nickname, and then Catherine dies. The day after Catherine's funeral, Isabella flees Heathcliff and escapes to the south of England, where she eventually gives birth to Linton.
Well, that's it, a little bit review from me of Wuthering Heights. There are actually a lot of people who ask me which is better between Wuthering Heights and Pride and Prejudice. Truthfully, I love them both. I love Mr. Darcy, I love Elizabeth Bennet, I love Catherine, I love Heathcliff, I love every characters in a novel that I've read before. The hero and heroine are so awesome, and more importantly, the quote. I love, there's one quote that I love the most in this book, and it's, whatever soul we made of, yours and mine are the same. That's just so romantic, and I really love it. So that's it. Thank you for watching my video. Goodbye.
Lover.